Hey guys, this is Stephanie and I'm Stacks on Stacks on Stacks. Today I'm coming to you with my April wrap-up. I know it's June, but I'm coming to you with my April wrap-up. My May was super busy. I had a really hard time getting things done. I didn't have a hard time reading in May, but I had a hard time getting anything else done. So I didn't get the wrap-up done, but I'll give it to you guys now. And you're never gonna guess what video is gonna be coming next. Yeah. So first thing I want to do is address my getting my hold of my shelf challenge from Drinking by My Shelf. It's a cute little thing she does where she has descriptions of books on a piece of paper in a cup. They are in reference to books on her TBR, which this is my TBR shelf here. And it's just going to give you a topic and that you'll have to read a book off that topic. And I haven't addressed this in a few months. So anybody who's new is going to be like, I know what you're talking about. For instance, in March, I had to read a fantasy book, which I did do, so that one is done. And in April, I had to read a book that I got in a book box, which I did do, and I will get to that book in a little bit. And then in May, I had to read the shortest book on my TBR, which I'll talk about in my May wrap-up, which you'll see very soon. So I actually read 10 books in the month of April, which was a little bit surprising. I did do the Spring to It videothon in April, and I did all of those extra videos, but I filmed all of those videos in March, and I edited most of those videos in April, so I was a little short on time. 10 books sounds impressive, but it's not. There's quite a few graphic novels in there. But the first book that I did read in the month in April was White Sands by Brandon Sanderson. This is a graphic novel. I think it's going to be a collection of, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 books. Who knows with that man? He just writes and writes and writes. But saying that Brandon Sanderson is one of my favorite authors, I wanted to give his graphic novel a shot, and I was not disappointed. I gave it a 3.5 personally and a 4.0 technically. The only thing I didn't love about the book is that it seemed a little disjointed, and everything for the most part came together at the end, but there's just there's this character and this one and this one, and Sanderson kind of does that sometimes. There'll be a scene at right the beginning of his book and you're like, I'm so confused, you just dumped me into the middle of the book, and that's kind of how it feels. But I had that feeling a lot, but I kind of didn't like that, and so I didn't love it. But at the same time, I have a feeling if I were to start with the graphic novel and then read through all 10, I probably would absolutely love that. So maybe I just need to put these off a little bit and I'll enjoy them more if I can read it more as a story. I don't know. I'm kind of excited to read the second one though, so it's hard to say. Basically, this is following a people who have magic to control sand and water, I think. And then there is another group of people that are looking for this tribe of people. And I don't know. I don't want to give things away because things happen pretty quickly because it's just a graphic novel. It's pretty short. A little confusing, but all in all, I liked it. Of course, I'll read the next one. Next book I read this month was Is Everybody Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling, and I actually listened to this one. I like listening to humorous books by humorous people when they are the ones who read them, and she did a great job. I gave this a 3.8 personally and a 4.0 technically. I don't know if I'd necessarily listen to it again, but I would listen to other books by her. I like her writing. I mean, she is a writer, but I like her writing. I liked her stories. I found her segueing from one story to another really good. It was a really quick read. It was pretty funny. She talked about stories about growing up Indian in a mostly white culture, and talked a little bit about The Office and her writing on The Office, and it was a really quick read. I listened to it and it went by really fast, and I definitely enjoyed it. And I would have to say I feel like I know her a little more personally now. If I saw her on the street, I would know not to talk to her versus talking to her, because that's what she would prefer. All in all, it was a fun book to read. And the next book I read this month was Bone by Jeff Smith, and this is just volume 1 out of Bone Town. And I started it a month ago or a month before, and then I had to take it back to the library, so I hurried up and finished it. But it was a really quick book. It was really cute. I gave it a 4.0 personally, and a 3.7 technically. I'm pretty sure I'll read the whole series. I think it's 10 volumes. They have a big chunker one. I tried to read that, but it was huge, and I felt like I wasn't making progress. So I'm going to stick to this single volume business. It has a really simple plot. It's funny, it's cute, and yeah, I like it. The next book that I read last month was the book that I got out of a book box, which would be Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. This book, I gave this a 2.1 personally in a 2.1. Technically, one of the best things about this book is the cover. I think it's really pretty. And it's purple, and I like that. And the book itself is also purple, and I like that. But this was not a good book. I don't know if I will read the next book in this series. I have read a couple books by Lindsay Cummings in the past, and I have liked them fine. I am not like, oh, I love these, but I like them. This is Sasha Alsberg's debut novel, and I just didn't love this. And I wanted to. I really wanted to. I wanted to be like, this book's gotten some crap, but it's pretty good. My biggest issue with this book is it needed more editing. It needed another round or two of editing. I felt like they just must have rushed it and pushed it right out so quickly that they just missed plot holes and bad writing and bad character development. I don't know. I don't write books, but this was not a great book. I will probably read something by Lindsay Cummings again because I've read things from her and I've liked them before. I don't know if I read anything from Sasha Alsberg again because it wasn't good. And one of the weird things was in this book, I can tell that they each wrote like sections of it because they'd be writing and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then the next section, it's like, it has like weird descriptions to it that never have anything to do with anything else in the story at all. So it'll be like, oh, this character has metal cheek implants. And I thought, well, maybe like a shield can come out of them, like an invisible shield, or maybe they make her like bulletproof or really fast or smarter or something. Nothing. They don't matter. And not only do the cheek implants not matter, they don't matter. And they're mentioned like every time you talk about the character and her metal cheek implants. And I'm like, those have nothing to do with anything. Like it was not coherent in so many ways, and it was just bad writing. It was bad writing, and I didn't like it. I would have to describe this book as a hot mess. It never quite came together for me. And there were a few scenes I actually thought were okay, and I presume those are the ones that Lindsay wrote. I don't know. They also did a lot of over-explaining with no context. I have read plenty of high fantasy and sci-fi, and I understand that when there's world building, this is how it works. But they would just start throwing out terms and things and say, the Andromeda system over at Zartax, and I'm like, okay, either that's gonna matter at some point, or we're gonna meet somebody from there, or something's gonna come along and matter or be important, but nothing comes along. Nothing is important, and it just didn't work. It didn't come together. Also, none of the characters were particularly likable. This was kind of portrayed as like a band of space pirates that are all girls, girl power, plus their ship is glass. And all I can think of, okay, when you have to go to the bathroom, does that mean everybody gets to watch you on the toilet? Or is the toilet glass? Because that's even more awkward. Just weird things. And there was a lot of inconsistencies too. Like sometimes a character would be like, she's a cool-headed girl, and then she just lost her temper and shot somebody. And not to mention that this main character, her name is Andy, she's known as the Bloody Baroness, which is way too close to the Bloody Baron from Harry Potter. Anybody else? Anybody think that? Anybody? And she's known to kill people without thought, and she doesn't care. Except that she really does care, and it really does bother her as she blows up a ship of 800 people. I'm like, it doesn't bother you. If killing people bothers you, you stop killing people. Like, I don't understand, and you will stop embracing the title of the Bloody Baroness because, I can't even. But the characters aren't likable. There are a lot of inconsistencies in there. They have these intense descriptions that never matter, and the whole book was a hot mess. I don't know. I even thought maybe I just need to sort out my thoughts, and I'll give it a few weeks. No. I'm probably not even going to keep it. I mean, I could keep it so I could trash it a bunch, or I could just trade it for something else. Okay, sorry about that little mini rant. Actually, my husband read this book too because I tell him how terrible it was and he didn't believe me. I don't know why. So we might do a rant together about that book. I don't know. If you think it sounds fun to have the two of us complain about Zenith, let me know. We'll do it. Why not? We'll do it. And the next book that I read and liked more would be Volume 4 of Paper Girls. And this is by Brian K. Vaughan, Cliff Chagin, Matt Wilson, and Jared K. Fletcher. I give this a 4.5 personally and a 4.5 technically. Being the fourth volume, I'm not going to go into any detail of what it is about, but basically we, at the very first volume, are following these girls that are friends, and they are paper girls in the 80s, and then some time travel stuff that goes on. But it's a really fun story. I very, very much like it. I do want to read all of them when they come out, like straight through sometime, as probably as a reread, and I'm sure I'll enjoy every step of the journey. The next book that I got from the library and read was The Time Museum by Matthew Liu. And this is like a middle grade comic book. Can you guys tell I went to my library and grabbed a bunch of like graphic novels and comic books and stuff? Because I did. I gave this one a 4.5 personally and a 4.5 technically as well. And this is going to be a series too. This is only the first one that came out. I don't know when it came out. My lights are blinking. Have they been blinking this whole time? Well, it's too late to change it now. Also, my hair is a hot mess today. This is what Nebraska humidity does to curls, and I'm just trying to like push it down. Yep, it's wild. It's a wild day for hair today. So this is a really simple book with a simple plot because it is a little more YA. I really did like it though. It's kind of kiddish, but it's totally a series I'll keep reading. I really did enjoy it. Basically, there's a girl who has an opportunity to work at a museum where they have learned to control time. And she's like an intern there. And yeah, that's about all I'm going to tell you. She has adventures. Things are fun. Just read it. It's super cute and super quick read too. The next book that I read in April, and my favorite book that I read in April, would be Warbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I loved this book. I just did. I loved this book, and I wasn't like super hesitant to read it. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, what if I don't like it? This is really glary. I'm sorry. Okay, that'll work. I just was hesitant to read it because I liked the first trilogy of the Mistborn books so much. I'm like, what if I don't like his other books? I think I'm going to like everything he writes. This book was just wonderful. It was just an epic journey. I hope it's the first one in a series. I don't know if he'll write more. He dedicated it to his wife, which of course I thought was so sweet. And if you haven't guessed, I gave it a 5.0 personally and a 5.0 technically. This book is a multi-perspective book, and sometimes I'm hit or miss on multi-perspective books, especially if I listen to them. I did read this and listen to it. I just kind of jumped back and forth. And I actually liked the audiobook. I didn't listen to all of it on audiobook, but I listened to some of it on audiobook, and they kind of had different actors reading them, and they did different voices. Like the girl who did the girl, she did 2 different girl voices. And I like that. When you do the same voice in a book, it confuses me and I don't do so well. This one was a buddy read with Hardback Haven, and we read it at the same time, only I got way ahead of her because I was like, this is so good, I can't put it down. So then I had to wait before I could talk to her about it. But she liked it too. And basically in this one, we are following a different magic system. In this one, you consume breaths, you could say, and you learn how to control those breaths. So you can like send a breath out of your body to control things, and that's kind of the magic system. Also in the magic system, we have a lineage of females who can basically change the color of their hair. It changes with emotion, but you can learn to control that and then control what color your hair is and stuff like that. This book is a multi-perspective book where we are following different characters. We're following 2 sisters named Viviana and Siri, and then we're following 2 guys who are not related. So basically there's a guy named the God King, and he's kind of in charge of everything. And from this lineage of girls, he has to marry the oldest one, like that's the rule. And they send the daughter to go marry him, but things are not quite going as planned. So we're following these 4 different characters who are going on these 4 different journeys, and then they throw a few other perspectives in there from time to time. And we also follow a god. So he's not the big god, he's just a god. And I like him the most of all. Lightsong is his name, and I kind of just loved him as a character and loved everything he did, and I thought he was so much fun. And I could probably talk about this book for hours because I super enjoyed it, but I'm going to spoil something if I keep talking about it. So I'm going to stop and just say, if you like a good magic system with beautiful colors and just a vibrancy in a book, characters that are likable, I love how their stories just weave in and out and work with each other, and really good writing, this would be the one. And I have to say, after reading Zenith and then reading this, I was like, yeah, it's kind of a steaming pile of poo. So sorry if you liked it. I loved this. The 8th book I read this month was The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I actually saw the play in April. I was given free tickets, so I was like, hot dog. So I went and saw the play, and I loved it. It was beautiful, and the colors and everything, and I was like, oh. And then I decided I wanted to read the book and watch the movie. So at first I watched the movie, which was introducing Whoopi Goldberg, which I'm like, Whoopi Goldberg, she's been around forever. She's not been around forever. This was her movie debut, and the book came out in like 83, 84, 85, and then they made a movie of it like almost right away. It was also one of Danny Glover's first movies, and it had Oprah in it. It had a lot of people, like a lot of current stars in it, and it was really cool to see them at the somewhat beginning of their careers. And then I read the book, and I gave it a 4.5 personally and a 4.5 technically. There were definitely some differences between the play and the book and then the movie and the book, and it's hard to say which one is closer. The movie is longer than the play, and they're not singing songs and dancing around and stuff, so they probably have a little more of the plot, but there are like some small details of the book that I really liked that the movie did, and some small details that the play did. So my advice would be go to the play, read the book, watch the movie. So this book takes place around like early 1900s, and we're following, I want to say in Georgia, I think northern Georgia, and we're following a black girl named Celie, and she's fairly young, 14, 15, and she's already had 2 babies. We don't know who the father was, and she has her younger sister, Nettie, who is her best friend in the whole world. And then her dad basically decides he doesn't want her anymore, and he doesn't sell her, but he gives her, kind of sells her, kind of gives her, to a guy in their town who wants a wife to take care of his kids and cook and clean his house. And Celie is a little simple. She looks at everything, and this is one of the most interesting things about the book. It was written from a very childlike perspective. So even when Celie becomes an adult in this book, everything is still very childlike. And even when she's like a 50-year-old woman, everything is still very childlike. And she's not stupid. She's just a little simple. And I will say though, when you're talking about really hard topics like this book covers, having that childlike simplicity to it makes it bearable. Because if you were to talk about it as an adult, it would just tear me up, and it already tore me up a little bit. So that made it better. I did like this book. I don't know if it's a book I'd necessarily read again anytime soon, because it was definitely a hard read, but I did like it. So we're following Celie as she is living with this man who is her husband, but she's like 15, 16, and she's been told she can't have children either. And so he likes that. And it just, there are a lot of things about this book that are so messed up, but it's not this book that's messed up. It's the fact that it happened, that it's messed up. The writing is wonderful. It's beautiful, and it's simple, and it gets the point across. The characters, some of the characters are super likable, and some of them you'd really like to just kick in the face. So she's a good writer. It's definitely a book worth reading, following this fictional historical storyline of Celie and how she deals with the things that come at her, and how she deals with these like big emotional things, but through almost a child's perspective. I feel like I'm not doing a very good job talking about this book. Just read it. It is a hard read. It talks about hard topics, but it is worth reading. And the next book I read was Mindy Kaling's other book, Why Not Me, which I listened to on audiobook by Mindy Kaling. I love that she read it. Again, it was another good book. She talked more about the Mindy Project in this one than The Office, and I actually haven't watched the Mindy Project. Now I kind of want to watch the Mindy Project because the way she talked about it, it sounded like fun. I gave it a 4.0 technically and a 4.0 personally. So she's a writer, so she should be writing, you know, a good book. And she did write a good book. I kind of had that expectation. When people aren't writers, I'm like, I have some grace for them, but she's a writer. She did a great job. She segments the book well. She keeps things interesting. As a whole, the book was quite good. And just like her last book, I kind of felt like I knew her better after this. And I think that's just the sign of a very good writer. So very fun. I enjoyed it. And the last book I read this month was This One Summer by Jacqueline Tamaki and Mario Tamaki. I didn't really love this book. I gave it a 2.0 personally and a 3.5 technically. I liked the art in this book. I didn't like the story very much. It was really slow paced. It was like a coming to age story, which is great, except that it was super slow paced, and then it was super anticlimactic, and I was like, no. So it's not one I'd read again. Probably not an author I'd necessarily want to read again. a little disappointing. It covers the story of two girls who kind of go to the same beachfront area every summer, and they're there and they're playing, and one is like a year or two older than the other one, and she's trying to like become more of a woman, and the other one's still kind of a kid, and they talk about dumb crap. I didn't like it, sorry guys. Those are the 10 books I read in the month of April. Some of them I liked and some of them I did not. My favorite was definitely Warcross. If you like fiction, if you like high fantasy fiction, good storytelling, good magic systems, that is the one for you. Don't let the fact that it's over 800 pages scare you. No, no. It's good. It's good. It just lies by. So go ahead and mention the best book you read in April. If you can remember that far back, I did have to look back on my notes because I'm like, I don't remember any of these books. What does that tell you? Because I would love to know what book you enjoyed, and put that in the comments down below. Or you can tell me if there's a book you're currently reading that you really like, because that might be just a little bit easier. Don't forget to like, and don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to come back on Tuesdays and Fridays, because that's when I have videos here. I'll just plan on seeing y'all then. Bye!